She faked evidence of me cheating and cried to my family. How could he do this to me? I just stayed quiet. But when the other woman showed up to our family dinner, she introduced herself as my private investigator. The silence from my own family was the loudest thing I'd ever heard. I was sitting in my parents' living room, a place that had always been a sanctuary, and it felt like an interrogation chamber. My mother was looking at me with eyes full of shattered disappointment. My father, a man who taught me the value of integrity, couldn't even meet my gaze. My sister, usually my fiercest defender, was sitting as far away from me as possible. And in the center of it all, holding court on my mother's favorite armchair, was my fiancée, Amelia. She was putting on an Oscar-worthy performance, complete with trembling hands and a voice choked with perfectly timed sobs. I just don't understand, she wept, dabbing at her dry eyes with a tissue. I found the messages on his laptop, explicit messages to some woman named Catherine, and the pictures. He was out with her at a restaurant, laughing. How could he do this to me? To us. She had called this family intervention herself. An ambush. 2 days ago, she'd come to me, her face a mask of fury and grief, holding up her phone to show me screenshots. They were text messages supposedly from me to this Catherine, filled with the kind of garbage you see in bad movies. There were also 2 photos, grainy and taken from a distance, of me at a restaurant talking to a woman with dark hair. I knew in that instant that they were fake. I had never sent those messages. I had never met a woman named Catherine. The photos were of me at a business lunch with a new client 2 weeks ago. A meeting Amelia knew about, but the way they were cropped, the context stripped away, it looked incriminating if you wanted it to. And my family, who adored Amelia, wanted to believe it. My first instinct was to fight, to deny everything, to point out the inconsistencies. But then I looked at Amelia's face. There was no pain in her eyes. Beneath the fake tears, there was a cold, triumphant gleam. This wasn't the act of a heartbroken woman. This was the calculated move of an executioner. She wasn't confronting me. She was destroying me. And she had chosen the perfect battlefield, the hearts and minds of my family. So, I made a choice. I said nothing. I let her perform. I let her spin her web of lies. I absorbed the looks of disgust from my family. Because in that moment, I understood that this wasn't a trial I could win with words. Arguing would only make me look guilty and defensive. The only way to win was to let her think she had already won. To let her build her entire case on a foundation of lies that I knew with absolute certainty I could demolish. Daniel, say something. My father finally grunted, his voice thick with shame. I looked at Amelia. I looked at my family. Their faces a mixture of pain and judgment. There's nothing to say, I said, my voice quiet and even. Amelia has shown you what she found. You've made up your minds. My silence was my confession in their eyes. Amelia's crocodile tears turned into a quiet, victorious sniffle. She had won. She had successfully painted me as the villain, the cheater, the man who had broken the heart of their perfect angel. She had isolated me from my own blood. The thing is, Amelia had made a fatal miscalculation. She thought she was playing chess with a pawn. She had no idea she was sitting across from a grandmaster. She thought this was the end of the game. For me, it was just the opening move. You see, I had been suspicious of Amelia for months. There were little things. Her sudden secretiveness with her new burner phone. The unexplained expenses. The vague stories about nights out with friends I'd never met. I'm a systems analyst by trade. I build and secure complex data networks. My entire career is about seeing patterns and identifying vulnerabilities. And Amelia's life had suddenly become full of them. So 6 weeks before her little performance in my parents' living room, I had done what I do best. I started a quiet, methodical investigation. I hired the best private investigator in the state, a woman named Catherine Shaw. Sharp, professional, and incredibly discreet. Her name, I noted with a certain irony, was Catherine. Close enough. I had given her a simple directive. Find out what my fiancé is really up to. I had a feeling I wasn't going to like the answer. I had no idea how right I was. So, as I sat there in that living room being cast out by my own family, I wasn't feeling heartbreak. I was feeling a cold, clean rage and the quiet, thrilling hum of a plan clicking perfectly into place. Amelia had just handed me the sword to cut her own throat, and I was going to enjoy every second of the swing. Update 1. The 2 weeks following the intervention were the loneliest of my life. My family treated me like a pariah. My mother would call and leave tearful voicemails begging me to do the right thing and give Amelia whatever she wanted. My father was stoic and distant. My sister sent me a furious text telling me I had ashamed our family. It hurt, but I had to understand their perspective. For 2 years, Amelia hadn't just dated me. She'd systematically embedded herself into our family. She remembered every birthday, helped my mom with her garden project, and became the daughter she never had. She wasn't just my fiancée. She was their trusted friend. Her manipulation was a long game, which made their blindness to her lies more tragic and understandable. I knew I couldn't resent them for it. I just had to show them the truth. Amelia, meanwhile, was living her best life. She had moved into the guest room of our shared house, a house that I owned, creating a physical and emotional barrier. She played the part of the grieving, wronged woman to perfection. She spent her days on the phone with my mother and sister, solidifying her position as the victim, and she started spending money, my money. She went on shopping sprees telling my mother it was retail therapy to cope with the trauma I had inflicted. Legally, her plan became clear. She hired a notoriously aggressive divorce lawyer. A letter arrived demanding that I vacate the house immediately as it was causing her extreme emotional distress to live under the same roof as me. The letter also laid out her demands for the settlement. The house, the car, and a crippling amount of alimony, citing my infidelity and emotional abuse as the cause for the dissolution of our engagement. Her strategy was simple. Make me the bad guy, use my family's emotional weight against me, and bleed me dry. While she was busy planning her victory parade, I was quietly assembling my arsenal. My private investigator, Catherine, was a true professional. Her reports were delivered to my secure email every evening and they painted a picture of a woman I didn't even know. Amelia wasn't just spending my money, she was moving it. Her accomplice, Alex, was sloppy. He left a digital paper trail, moving the money through a series of domestic accounts to muddy the waters before sending it to a secret offshore account. That initial domestic trail was all Catherine's forensics team needed to unravel the entire scheme. The total amount was staggering, well into the 6 figures. And she wasn't doing it alone with Alex, her so-called wealth manager. Catherine's surveillance team had photos, dozens of them. Photos of Amelia and Alex at fancy dinners, checking into boutique hotels, kissing in his car. The timeline was damning. Their affair had been going on for nearly a year. The best part, the piece that made my blood run cold with its sheer audacity, was Catherine's final report. Her team had gained access to the burner phone's unsecured cloud backup. A rookie mistake for an aspiring criminal. In that backup, she found the original uncropped photos of my business lunch. She also found the application Amelia had used to create the fake text messages, complete with a saved draft of the conversation with Catherine. And then the crown jewel, a series of messages between Amelia and Alex sent the day before the intervention. Amelia, the stage is set. I'm showing the family the evidence tomorrow. They'll eat it up. Daniel won't know what hit him. Alex, perfect. Once he's isolated, he'll be desperate to settle. We can drain him completely. You play the victim, I'll handle the money. We'll be in the Cayman Islands by Christmas. This wasn't just infidelity. This was a premeditated criminal conspiracy to defraud and destroy me. Her faked evidence of my cheating was just a smoky-ox screen for her real crimes. I now had everything I needed, the motive, the means, the evidence. All that was left was to set the stage for the final act. I called my mother. I told her that I was ready to talk, to apologize. I told her that I had been a fool and that I wanted to make things right with Amelia and the family. I asked if she would host a family dinner on Sunday night, a reconciliation dinner. I told her I would even invite Catherine, the other woman, so I could apologize to her in front of everyone and end things properly. My mother cried with relief. She thought I had finally come to my senses. She immediately called Amelia to share the good news. Amelia, I'm sure, was ecstatic. She thought her plan had worked perfectly. She believed I was broken, ready to confess to a crime I didn't commit and beg for her forgiveness. She had no idea she was accepting an invitation to her own execution. Update 2. Sunday night arrived. The atmosphere at my parents' house was thick with a kind of grim anticipation. When I walked in, my family looked at me with a mixture of pity and lingering disgust. Amelia was already there sitting on the couch looking serene and magnanimous like a queen preparing to grant a pardon to a grueling subject. She had dressed for the occasion in a soft cream-colored dress, a picture of innocence. We sat down for dinner. The small talk was excruciating. My father tried to talk about sports. My mother kept asking if everyone had enough to eat. Amelia just watched me, a small knowing smile playing on her lips. She thought this was all for her. My public humiliation. Halfway through the main course, I cleared my throat. The table fell silent. I know why we're all here, I began, my voice steady. I know what you all think of me, and I know I have a lot to answer for. I looked directly at Amelia. Her smile widened. This was it. The moment she'd been waiting for. You're right to be angry, I continued, letting my gaze sweep across my family. I have been hiding something. I have been seeing another woman, and I'm deeply sorry for the pain it's caused. My mother started to cry softly. My father just shook his head. In fact, I said, I asked her to come here tonight. I felt it was important for everyone to finally meet her, to put a face to the name. Just then, the doorbell rang exactly on 2. A wave of confusion washed over the room. Amelia's Victoria's smile faltered, replaced by a look of genuine shock. She never thought I would actually bring my supposed mistress to a family dinner. I stood up. Excuse me, I said. I walked to the door and opened it. Standing on the porch was Catherine Shaw. She was dressed in a sharp professional business suit carrying a slim leather briefcase. I led her into the dining room. My family stared, their mouths agape. Amelia looked like she had seen a ghost. Mom, Dad, Sarah, I said, my voice ringing with a newfound clarity. This is the woman Amelia has been telling you about. The woman I've been meeting with in secret for the past 6 weeks. Amelia, recovering quickly, saw her opening. She stood up, her voice trembling with manufactured rage. How dare you, she shrieked. How dare you bring that home wrecker into this house in front of your family? This was her final performance, and it was a good one. But the show was over. Catherine stepped forward, a calm, unreadable expression on her face. She looked directly at Amelia. Ma'am, I think there's been a misunderstanding, she said, her voice cool and crisp. My name is Catherine Shaw. I'm a licensed private investigator. She placed her briefcase on the dining room table and clicked it open. And your fiancé Daniel is my client. Final update. The silence that followed Catherine's introduction was absolute. You could have heard a pin drop. The color drained from Amelia's face, replaced by a ghastly pale shade of terror. My family just stared, their minds struggling to process this sudden, violent shift in the narrative. Catherine didn't waste any time. She was a surgeon and this was an operation. Daniel hired me 6 weeks ago, she began, her voice cutting through the silence because he suspected his fiancée was being dishonest. My job was to find the truth, and I did. She pulled out the first file from her briefcase. Let's start with the evidence of Daniel's infidelity. She placed the enlarged, uncropped photos of my business lunch on the table. These photos were taken by Amelia's accomplice, a man named Alex Breener, and deliberately edited to create a false impression. She then produced a forensic report. This is an analysis of the text messages from Catherine. They were created using a simple commercially available application found in the unsecured cloud backup of Amelia's secondary phone. They are, to use a legal term, a complete fabrication. My mother gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. My father just stared at the papers, his face turning from disappointment to a slow-burning rage. But why would she do this? My sister asked, her voice a whisper. That's the interesting part, Catherine said, pulling out a second, much thicker file. This wasn't just a breakup. It was a heist. For the next 10 minutes, Catherine laid out the entire conspiracy in cold, brutal detail: the affair with Alex, the offshore bank account, the systematic embezzlement of over $200,000 from my savings. She presented bank statements, surveillance photos, and finally the transcripts of the text messages between Amelia and Alex, the ones where they plotted my destruction and their luxurious escape. She read their words aloud. Once he's isolated, he'll be desperate to settle. We can drain him completely. With every word, Amelia seemed to shrink. The confident, manipulative woman was gone, replaced by a cornered, terrified animal. When Catherine finished, she turned to my father, a former prosecutor. What you're looking at, Catherine said, gesturing to the mountain of evidence on the table, is not just infidelity. It's wire fraud, conspiracy, and grand larceny. Amelia finally broke. She let out a guttural sob and lunged for the evidence, trying to tear it up. But my father, moving faster than I'd seen him move in years, grabbed her wrist. His voice when he spoke was like ice. That's destruction of evidence and a confession. He looked at me, his eyes filled with a profound, gut-wrenching shame. Daniel, he said, his voice cracking. I am so sorry. I know, Dad, I said. My sister was already on the phone. My father took it from her. This is Mark Hayes, he said, his old prosecutor's voice booming with authority. I am at 125 Oak Street. I am witnessing an admission to multiple felonies, and the suspect is actively attempting to destroy evidence. We require immediate assistance. The rest of the night was a blur. 2 officers arrived, and with my father explaining the situation and Catherine presenting a summary of the evidence, they had clear grounds to act. The sight of Amelia being led away in handcuffs, sobbing and pleading, was not one I will soon forget. It wasn't a moment of triumph. It was a moment of quiet, grim justice. In the months that followed, the legal system did its work. Faced with an insurmountable mountain of evidence, Amelia took a plea deal. She was convicted of grand larceny and sentenced to 3 years in prison. Her accomplice, Alex, was also arrested and is facing his own set of charges. I have a civil suit pending against both of them. And my lawyers are confident we will recover every penny she stole. My family and I have slowly started to heal. The trust was broken, but the foundation was strong. They are ashamed of how quickly they were manipulated. But I understand. My revenge wasn't just about exposing her. It was about reclaiming my life and my family from the poison she had injected into it. I didn't just want to win. I wanted to annihilate her entire strategy. She tried to use a lie to destroy my reputation, so I used the truth to destroy her freedom. She tried to steal my money, so I used it to hire the person who would ultimately put her behind bars. She tried to turn my family against me, and in the end, it was my family who witnessed her ultimate downfall. She wanted to play the victim. Now, as she sits in a prison cell, she has all the time in the world to perfect the role. She thought she was writing my tragedy. She had no idea she was just the villain in my story of survival. And my story has a much better ending.